Okay, so in this, um, right, so in this log, I'm going to be doing a little bit of housekeeping, and I think I'm going to get into the weapon bit. I'm going to share just about everything right now, so it can be seen just real quick. Actually, no, because it doesn't work, so we need to actually fix the code. So I'll show you a little bit of the cleaning that I took care of. This is likely not going to be the final uh, version of this, but it's just something I'm messing around with. So the idea is, this is broken somewhere else because I just changed this. But the idea is, I want to do a send, and then somewhere along the way I want to test to see if this is empty or not. And if it is, then we don't do this part, right? So this is just a way that I can figure how to handle this, because originally I had it where I would actually have to just type send underscore one or whatever. So let's go take a look at the entity script, because I think that's where like I used it. Sorry, for my state machine. So like, yeah, right here, I would do this. So instead now I would just do this. Right, and that should work. So let's just save everything. We might have to restart Godot. Uh, do we have to restart Godot? I think we do. It's not picking it up. All right, so just do that. Reload current project. Okay, and let's go back to entity. And it did not save that I made that change. Let's go do that again. But this time it at least knows that the change of the thing is there. So now let's save. Yes, this is actually Taro State Machine, right? I think I've shown it before in the very first go at this when I was putting it together. But pretty much it's pretty nifty. So the Taro State Machine, based on Taro Dev, who is a YouTuber, also a game developer, obviously. So he has some pretty intense stuff. I remember when I was first starting out, and I just was put off to his content because it just was like at a level that was, I never thought I could understand it. I just was so frustrated dealing with it, and then uh, it somehow, like, I ended up in that weird situation where I was more studying up on the assets that I had gotten, and I was just looking at how these assets worked. And as I was developing my project out, I realized I needed certain functionality, and I got a different asset, and I was like, well, how is this asset doing this? When I looked at that, and I was like, oh, they're doing like these weird things with these tools that I've seen around before, but I've never actually used. And suddenly it started to click, and then I just happened to be back at Tower Dev, just looking at like a framework for how to make a game. And I'm like, oh, I get that state machine. I understand what that's doing. You know. To break it down, essentially it comes down to like roughly four parts. One is the function. The other is the signals. All right, and the enum, and finally the switch. Right. So effectively, we can call this function. In Unity, it would be different, but in Godot, we basically are not supposed to call this function from outside of this class. We can, though, right? But there is no, like, you'll see what I mean. There's no external way that this is supposed to be set up unless you make a direct reference to the class that you're talking about, that you want to change that specific thing's state. And then when you do that, you just change this, you put in whatever state you want it to go into: idle, moving, attacking, airborne, whatever. So the next part, I usually do this just because I like to cut off if the thing, I don't want it to, like, let's say I put it in some kind of loop or whatnot. I don't want it to keep saying, oh, I'm in this state, if it's already in that state. So this is just to return it out of that. Um, oh, Okay, there. This is just a return out of that. But yeah, assuming that you're not in your current state, it's just going to go down here and then do the send. And the send is essentially just going to fire off an emit on this. Now, I went through the whole shebang of what you probably just saw me doing over here, which is just testing internal classes with this. So the idea is this can handle up to 4 arguments. I've never had to do this kind of well, sorry, in Godot it's called a signal. I've never had to do an event, which is what it's called in Unity, with this many arguments, right? Usually it's maybe 2 or 3, but I've never gone to 4, but it doesn't take much to expand on this. So the idea is we have these internal classes that we're just never going to actually access. We're supposed to get to it through send. And then send will just instantiate this internal class and do what it's supposed to do. So that's the trick. That's it. That's the whole thing. And then now for things that are inside of, oh yeah, so let's go back to it for 1 second. So here you'll see that it has an on before and an on after. So the idea is, like, let's say that something is supposed to happen in another script somewhere else in the scene if the player goes to idle, but it's supposed to happen before the player executes its own code for it to be idle, right? Then this is going to send that out, and it's going to say, hey, before this part happens with the switch, so this is all timing. And then after this, then we have the on after if we want things to happen after this has gone through whatever it needs to go through. And this is a state machine, believe it or not. This is actually a very powerful state machine because here you have communication externally, right? To let everything in the game know, hey, this is happening. This is the state that we're in. And here you have internal stuff that will manage the state in as far as internal to whatever is happening in the script, right? Because this can communicate to anything that directly is connected to this. To tell it, hey, I'm in this state now. And it's tracking that through state. Right? And I could just check state or activity state rather, and I'll get what activity is happening on this. So we're talking about this because we're going to be going into a bit of state machine stuff with the attacks. So I think the game should be running. Let me just test it to see if it's going to error me out. Yeah, it errors me out. Let's find out what's happening. Probably something with what I did that was new. Oh, right. Here we go. Okay. Let's go like that. Anything else? Interesting. Interesting. What just happened? We don't know. We don't know. I think it was an assumption that I made about how this works, this part. So we're going to test that out. So we're going to go print A. I want to find out this is the one that should be no, it should be A. That's well, all of them are A. It should be B. That's going off right now. And I think I wanted to tell me the source. All right, dot name. Okay. C, B. If my hunch is correct, it's going to actually fire off E. Do I need to do a break on this? I should. Normally you would have to do a break. But I guess in Godot you don't have to do breaks. Whatever. Let's test it out and see what happens. No, it's firing off A properly. Well, no. It's firing off A, but it shouldn't be firing off A. So basically what it's saying is that you're getting some other response from this. Does it match? Null. Can I do that? What the heck? I think it just crashed. Yep. Mm-hmm. One sec. Godot crashed. Okay, and it crashed again. Yes, it did. Are you telling me that I can't open Godot right now? Are you serious? Yeah, it's crashing. It won't let me build the project. Okay. Never, this has never happened before. Can I go to the file? Where is it? It's in OneDrive. Godot, GitHub. Okay. And I just entered that in scripts. I don't think my IDE can run this, but I'm going to try to see if it can. It was under controller and entity. Show in file manager. Maybe I can open it with Notepad. Nice, Notepad for the freak. So, okay, it wasn't this that I changed. It was utils that I changed. Let's just go out one script. I think utils is in data. Yep. Notepad. And it is this. So we're gonna say this is true. Okay, now let's save this. Okay, now let's see if we can open it. Sorry about that. Godot just like said. Yep, now I can open it. All right. Lesson learned. Oh man, that's crazy. Okay, so yeah, essentially, if you put a match on null, say goodbye to your Godot. Oh man, it's a good thing you can open up the files on a typical WordPad. That's nice. Okay, so I need some way. We need some way of tracking the arguments. I need to find out if I can put an argument here. If I can put doesn't equal null. Expression is a match pattern. Constant expression. That is a constant expression, no? Sort of. Not really. Okay. I mean, that's agreeable. I can understand. The other way to handle this is to just do it like this. This is unnecessary application. So you can just do an if statement. If arg4, then douche. Okay, then L if arg3 as annoying as this is to set up, it's something I think Godot wants you to do. L if arg2 And finally, if elif arg1. Essentially, we're just checking to see if any of these arguments are not null. All right, so we start from this one because this is the last one, and then we're just going to go all the way down, and then we say else, and we're just going to do source.emit. If we're just sending, and we can just delete all of this. All right, now save. Let's try doing this. Execute. I thought we fixed all of these already. No, we don't want you to have that. Let me just double check abilities real quick. Yeah, we don't want this. This was an idea I was having. It's a bad idea. It doesn't work. It led into me actually doing this stuff. Right, and my brain is just not ready. I'll tell you that right now. What's wrong? Unable to movement, dungeon movement. What's wrong with this? There's nothing. Save. Unable to write. Lacking permissions. What's it saying is the issue? Entity. Execute. Rotation. Let's get. Oh, I see. Okay. So it's saying I don't have permissions to make changes to these files now. Okay. Let's reload Godot. See if it fixed that. Yeah, this engine is kind of out there. So it looks like it did fix it though. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have the option, and it's not like as if it's impossible. It's just these really quirky little issues keep popping up. These really quirky little issues. Like I'm thinking, since I have this thing inheriting abilities, what I had wanted to do was make execute and I think there's a way to do it, right? Which is to make it so that way when you call abilities on it, or you call the init, well, no, when you call execute on this, that it actually calls execute on the lower level. There's a way to do it. It's just that I did it before in Unity for effects, where I had effects communicating up and down the inheritance. When I was doing cloning of the effect. Problem is, I think what it is what I need to do is I need that to call execute, right? For that execute, that's going to be called, is going to just have random stuff. And the random stuff is all going to be set to no. And then the execute that's called, I'm going to get that from the lower level. So I'm actually going to have to do something that will allow me to call something in here. So there's going to have to be some method like call lower. And then call lower is actually going to return this whole class back up to that class. And then in that class, I'm just going to do that and then call execute on that. All right, so it's like something like this. I'm going to have something like func call lower, right? And the call lower is just going to return self, right? That's the idea. That's the idea. And then when we go up to execute, when we go up to abilities, we're going to have func execute, right? And then this is just going to take in arg1, which is going to be equal to null, arg2, which is going to be equal to null, arg3 going to be equal to null, arg4 equal to null, and arg5 is going to be equal to null. Right? And then what this is going to do now is I need to make a func call lower, right? And that's going to have a pass on it. We don't want this one to return anything. And this one is going to now say var lower is equal to call lower. And whatever call lower now returns is going to be there. Yeah, there we go. Whatever call lower does is now going to do that, and then this is going to take that and it's going to say execute lower execute, and then we just pass in args 1, arg2, arg3. I don't think this is going to work. Arg. Oh no, I know what I can do. We can just do if. We can do the same thing that we did over here. Right, so if arg5, then we can say lower dot execute, and we can just pass in all of them: arg1, arg2, arg3, arg4, and arg5. Otherwise, elif arg4. This is making a pretty big assumption, but I want to see if this works. Lower dot execute. So we're actually going to just do this. Yeah. And we're going to change the name of the other one. So we're actually going to change this one to just execute, and then this one is going to be something else. We're probably going to change it like internal execute or something like that. Arg. We can just do this. Let's just grab the whole thing. Yeah, let's actually just grab the whole thing. Now we'll do this one. Then we'll do this. Okay. So 4, 3, 2, 1, and it just else. Okay, and the idea is fairly simple. You just go like that, like this, like this, like this. That's it. Okay, that should do it. We didn't test out util. We should test that out, right? We want to find out. So it should be this one is the one that gets fired off. So let's test this. Print A. B. Print A. There we go. Let's try it. Okay. So dungeon movement. So this is something else that this is talking about, I think. Where is it talking about? It's talking about here. Execute, movement, dungeon movement. Oh yeah, so internal, execute. There's going to be other ones, so let me just copy this. And we'll go back up to abilities, and we'll just call internal execute. This, yeah, that's fine. Now this way, what this means is that instead of having to call up the specific ability, right, I can just call up abilities and then just run execute. And it'll automatically now do a call to its lower and then return whatever it gets there. So we want to put something here. If lower, return. Right? So if it doesn't get anything on lower, then just return out. Oh, right. That's the idea. That's it. So yeah, it just took me a second to remember how I did that in Unity. But yeah, once it's done, it's done. So again, basically, we call execute. We fill in whatever arguments we're going to fill in. It doesn't care. Then we're going to say, okay, let's get the lower. The lower is going to call. The lower is going to call this, right? And it's going to just let's just make sure. Movement. So like this would be like func call lower, and it would just do return self. Oh, come on. What now? So and such is locked. Do I have it open elsewhere? Is that what it is? No, I don't. Okay, let's try that again. Save. I don't have it open elsewhere. The only thing I can see is that this is running and it shouldn't be running. Let's try opening it. Okay, let's see if it'll do it now. Okay, I got it. I figured out what the problem was. Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, I also split out rotate character from the dungeon movement. So instead of everything being in movement, movement is handling movement specifically, and rotation is handling the rotation separately. So on the other side, what this looks like is that in entity, we just did a turning. Turning is the dungeon rotation. I didn't use rotation because there's a node 2D. I think there's like an internal or character body. There's an internal property for a rotation, so I had to just make something else, and I decided turning was close enough. So this is then called further down in the dungeon player here in its physics loop, I think. Where is it now? Yeah, over here. So it's called through get inputs, but this is in the physics loop, and basically every physics frame, it's going to get the input and then apply, or it's going to execute on these. So this is using the main execute already. So it'll be good just to see, does this work? Let's check this out. What's the issue now? Okay, it's saying execute. That's great. What's calling the execute though? Is nothing calling execute? Rotate character. It doesn't show anything actually calling it. Like I can't see the steps that led to it. So it looks to me like as if it's just upset about nothing. Nothing should be calling execute except the player, right? On this. We just looked at the player, dungeon player. Movement execute. Turning execute. Self input. Self input. But this isn't calling this. What is it saying? Parse. Function signature doesn't match the parent. Because the parent is not the same thing as this. Oh, whoops. Dummy. Internal execute. There we go. A non-existent function in node underscore execute. What did we name it? Abilities. It's just plain execute. Okay, got it. Dungeon player. So you can just get rid of this. Now let's try that. Invalid call internal execute in base node. Hmm. This is weird. Hmm. So we know that it's passing in 2 arguments. Right? We know that. Let's do this. Print arg2. I'm curious. I think what it is that it's returning vectors, vector2 blank, and it's reading that as, oh, I think that's what's happening. Let's do this. There we go. Grr. Okay. This doesn't exist, so we can just get rid of this right now. We were in the middle of that before. Yeah, that's what it is. It's returning vector 2, 0. So what we need to do is be very clear about this. So let's go back. We got to make it explicit that we're specifically talking about null. Whoops, doesn't equal. There we go. Okay. So now we can put this back. This should be fine. Yep, there we go. Okay, so now, if you notice, well, sorry, you don't actually see that. Let me share the whole screen with you. Wait 1 sec. Yeah, so let me, oops. Oh boy. Let me share the whole M kebab. Where is this thing? OD. Oh, there it is. There we go. Okay, so we can do something like this. Now, if you see, we have that little chakram over there. It doesn't do anything right now. I just disconnected it, but basically, yep, the chakram is in the game, and I think we can move. Yep, we can still move around. So movement is working, rotation is working. So that system that we just made is working, which also tells me that, which is a fast way of testing util out. It also tells me that this needs to have a check for if this doesn't equal null. Right? Then we do those things. Otherwise, we do that. That's it. And I think this is going to give me that issue. So we actually have to do a class send. And we'll just do this. Okay, that should do it. Right, and then we brought our loadability into it being a static function. This way we have access to it from anywhere in the script. So now we go back to our dungeon rotation. This will have call lower. And where's dungeon movement? Dungeon player, dungeon movement. Call lower. Which is something else we're working on. This is going to get rid of execute. This is going to be internal execute, and then I'm going to do func call lower, and it's going to just return self. Oops. Right, and that should be it. So effectively, all abilities, everything that extends ability just needs to have this, which we'll call its lower. And once it does, then it'll run internal execute based on whatever the inputs are that we're getting. Okay, and let's hook up the, I don't think you can see my cursor. I think you can. But let's hook back up the weapon real quick. So the idea is, so what is this? This is the weapon controller. So this is the thing that's actually needs to be hooked back in. So let's name it real quick. Class name weapon equipped weapon movement, right? And so now save. We okay, yeah, and so now we can just do this, which is we go back to the uh, weapon level. Actually, I think I want this to be on the entity level. And I'm going to go var weapon movement type. It's going to be the same thing as this. We're just going to call the utils. See, this cleaning up stuff is pretty cool, right? And then we're going to go equipped weapon. Douche. Okay. And so now in the dungeon play, let's save. Am I getting an issue? Oh, we have something here. So, right, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Okay, so let's remove this for a second. I think what it was is that I was at this part, and I was discovering that abilities, the this thing, this property, doesn't show up on the inspector. So let me take a look and just confirm that. Uh, where are you? Where are you? Dungeon player. Oh yeah, it's right here. Okay, awesome. And nice, nice, nice. Okay. So it will take in that, and then I want it to take in equipped weapon. Nope, it doesn't take that in. What about this? What the heck is going on here? So it's supposed to be of the type abilities, right? That it's supposed to take in. And as far as I know, this right here is of the, it extends abilities. So that would mean that if I go here, this, it looks like it only wants to do it if it's already in the scene. Is that what's happening? I see. Right? So like it says it wants, basically it wants to get this only if this is already in the scene. And then I can assign it. Yep, that's what it wants to do. That's what it wants to do. Okay. That is silly. That is very, 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 very silly. But it makes sense. So we've encountered the difference or the distinction. So how can we get around it? The only way I could think is to make it a string. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Script. Entity. Instead of making this an ability that we can just drag and drop, we're going to turn this into a string. Right? And then it would have been nice to be able to just drag and drop abilities straight in there, but whatever. Whatever. It's probably because it's inheriting node. More than likely why. If I had inherited resource, then it could probably do it perfectly fine. Regardless, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go weapon movement. We're gonna go weapon movement type. Okay, this is here temporarily anyway, right? There's going to be different, maybe, I don't know. Let's see how it turns out, because it could be, this is not something that the player should really, I think should ever really be getting into. I might make like a dictionary, which I think is what the next thing, and it's just going to be like a dictionary of this stuff for this to load and use. Right, that's the next step, but that's down the road. For right now, this is very much boilerplate. Like I'm just testing out to see how these systems in Godot really interact with one another, so I can get just more comfortable with them. So we got that. So now let's just see what it looks like in editor. Right, that's about what I thought. So let's take this. Can I put that here? Nope. How about this? Can I put that here? Nope. So then we kind of have to... What? This is supposed to be a string. All right, let's save. Let's reload. Do I have nothing? Okay. Did it change? No. All right, let's reload this. Reload current project. Okay, that looks better. So now this is a string. So now let's see if I can just do this. Nope. How about this? Nope. Okay, well, we can do this. Equipped weapon. All right, there we go. And so now we can go back to the dungeon player itself. And over here, we'll just put I think what was it? Weapon movement. Yeah. Dot execute self. And what is this thing looking for? Where is it? It's under equipped weapon. There you go. It's looking for the weapon controller and the directions. Okay, so the target direction in this case is, I know what it is. Okay. So let's go back to the dungeon player. Not looking for self, it's looking for the weapon, controller, and then the inputs. Is that what it's looking for? No. Oh, it's looking over here. I'm in the wrong area. Get up here in physics process. And it's looking for the mouse position. This is in the case of the player. For the AI, obviously, they're going to be looking in whatever direction I program in to give them. But the good news is this part of the script, it should just be fine. So now let's test this and see what error we get. I don't even know. The AI. Yeah, okay. So this has to deal with the emit, right? So yeah, here we go. Right? So this has to do with the emit. The idea is that we need to find out the one that should be going off. It's here. So there's a player manager. Player manager should be handling the instantiation. So this should really is not going off. The thing that calls it is here in the data manager. Persistent data manager. So, and it's called, where is it? It's called here on ready. Okay. So it's called when we enter the scene. You can delete that. And it's going to say find, let's delete this also. It's going to say find player manager. And it's going to say self. These are so it's sending in two things. So I need to put a print A here. And then we get over to utils. And we need to do a check. It has the source and one argument. So right here, B. So it should just go straight A, B. So let's test this out. Went A. But it didn't get to B. Try C. Let's see what happens there. Okay, this is good. It's sending out a null at A. So let's go back to here. So it's saying that itself is null. That doesn't make sense. That don't make no goddamn sense. I must have put something in wrong somewhere. Go back to util. arg1, arg2, these are all set to null by default. When we pass in, we're checking. What the heck? What did I type? Yeah, I see what I did wrong. Ha 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 ha. Very funny. 3, 2, 1. There. That should fix it. Now what? Null instance. So it's saying that should never have. Oh, wait. Try that one more time. This is coming back null, which tells me that we can just put this out real quick. Okay, let's get rid of a couple of things. But yeah, it's coming back. It's saying it here is that this is null. So in here, we can get rid of this. We fixed that already. In utils, we can get rid of this. Right? And it's really just a matter of this. So so despite having set it up in the inspector, it appears that it's going to attempt to do loadability before it realizes that the information is already by default on the character, right? So we have a problem there. It it looks like it happens in order, I'm going to guess, from top to bottom. And because we're setting it, or rather it's set already, it's going to read that property after it's already tried to pass through the loadability. So it knows that we've typed in, but at the same time it doesn't know. So quick way to check that if that's what's happening. This is all a learning experience, so it's no real biggie. There's tons of ways to get around this, but so basically I just want to move this over here, right? We'll say that we put it over there. Let's just double check this to make sure that nothing disappeared. Yep. Wait, what? What? Disappeared. Oh, there it is. Equipped weapon at the top. Okay. Nope, it's still coming back null. Hmm. Did I type it wrong? Equipped weapon. Nope, we typed it right. Equipped weapon. Yeah. Okay, so I mean the alternative would be to actually make a new instance of it rather than doing a get load. Right? Because I am putting, as far as I know, I am putting equip weapon movement, rotate character, movement, character, movement. Right? So dungeon, character, movement. No, I think that this is probably the best way to handle it. So, do not want to go through this nightmare. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to type it in. I guess we have to hard code it in. It's all just to test anyway. Later on, I'll figure out a better way of handling it, but for right now, I just need to get this thing running. I want to see if it works before I start committing to it. Okay, so let's... Oh, that... One sec. There we go. Okay, now that should work. Let's see. Nope, still saying no. Let's put this back up above it. Still says no. So weird. Okay, whatever. Let's see if it's just something else that's wrong. We're gonna put dungeon. Oops, what the heck? Dungeon. Or rather, it's equipped weapon. Okay. Well, it's not giving me null anymore. It's just that this part isn't connected. Where are you? So dungeon player, and let's just reconnect it. There. Now when we go play, it's not working. Her. Okay, so we need to find out what the heck is going on here. We need to find out what the heck is going on here. Weapon movement is going to be equal to this dot execute. So let's take a look first. Let's go all the way down first to the equipment. I think I call it equipped weapon. This is the ability equipped weapon. So it handles this, and then it has internal execute. So my question is this executing? Print A. And let's find out. It is executing. Nice. And it's doing stuff. Hmm. This is that point where I get super confused. Let's do this. We're going to go out here. Let's go rotation. And we're going to say shouldn't make a difference, but you never know. I mean, it's doing stuff, right? I can see it's responding to the mouse. It's just not doing what it should be doing. Tells me that it's acting like the math is off. So I'm going to actually do myself a solid here. And I'm going to go back to something real quick. There we go. One sec. I'm going to go back to one of my older videos. I say older, but I just mean yesterday. I don't want to bore you with it, so I am going to... Um, okay. 5 should have been yesterday. I just need to see what I did at that point. Update data, confirm hit. This is the weapon handler. Still the weapon handler. Weapon controller, here we go. Yeah, all right, so yes. This is so weird. So weird. The only thing I could think of is that weapon controller is not being set. right? It's being instantiated, but it's not actually being set to the weapon controller property. So let's take a look at the entity real quick. Yeah. Where are you? Weapon controller. So the weapon controller is supposed to be something that happens on ready. We do a get node. Problem is, does this node actually exist? I don't know. Right, and this is one of the problems when you're inheriting into entity. Because the attached script here is not entity. This is completely random. So in Unity, what I would have done is I would instantiate a weapon controller on the ready for this. Child. Right? Because there's no reason, I don't think there's any real reason for me to have the weapon controller here. Yeah. There's no reason for me to simply have the weapon controller there. So instead, what we can do is we can do this. We can say where is this thing? Get rid of this. And we can just func get weapon controller. And here we're going to just return the weapon controller. And then from there, we're going to say we're going to have to var scene is going to be equal to load and weapon controller scene. Then we're going to say var node is going to be equal to scene instantiate Is it instantiate or instantiated? That's the question. It is instantiate. Okay, and then we return the node. So now we're going to do it like this. And we're going to say this is going to be equal to get weapon controller. Right? And that should do that. And then, oh yeah, we're going to have to do this also. Set child node. I think that's how that works. Let's just check util one more time. Add child. Okay, got it. Okay. So, and then we just add this. to it, and that should do it. Save. Go and check. We want to delete this weapon controller. Delete that node. Save this up. Okay. Her. This is so weird. It should be working by all rights. Unless I forgot something. Let me take a look at the equipped weapon. I need to change the name of that. That's not a good name. We know that it's firing off. And then we execute change an angle. And then we say the weapon controller is that. Oh, okay. There. There we go. Okay. Done. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, rotation is built into Node. So for some reason, it just didn't register in my head for a while, and I'm sorry about that. It's like, I thought it was something that I made. It's just, you wouldn't normally see something like this just tied into the class that you extend out of in Unity. It's more like something that you'd intentionally be going into a specific class that has the property rotation rather than the class that you're in already has rotation. It's just slightly different. Like if I wanted to get access to rotation, I wouldn't just type rotation, I would type something like transform.rotation. Okay, so there we go. We got the weapon moving. And we've done some cleaning of the code now. This stuff basically we've broken apart quite a few things. Entity. We now have this kind of like we got rid of one thing and now we have to have the other. But technically speaking, we could just use that again, this stuff that we had originally, but I actually prefer it this way. Don't ask me why, I just prefer it this way. I think what I really want is the ability to turn this into something that, like, I know that this is something that I want to load this particular thing. Right? Which means that I need to make a properties indexer. I need to make something that will index all of the things that I have in my project. So that way I can just make a quick reference to them via code in some way that makes sense. What did I just get rid of? Oh, there we go. Okay, so we can actually get rid of this. This is useless to us right now. I mean, technically, no. All right, because yeah, you know what? I'm gonna. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it the way that it is. This is. Let me take a look at utils one more time just to see. Yeah, let's leave it the way that it is. This is. This I hate strings so much just because of this. Like it's so finicky. Right? Like let's say I moved it out of abilities into something, or I renamed this. Like this would just break. All right, let's move on. So we're going to be doing a little bit. So the first half of this is basically done, which is the house cleaning, right? We pretty much fixed up. We got rid of quite a few of these things I don't need to know if this went off anymore. Let's get rid of that also. And there is something here that's tracking the coordinates. I think it's probably in the weapon controller, maybe? Or maybe it's in the weapon handler. Could be in the player then. Yep, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it's like in Unity, if they have a debug.log and I could have just clicked it and then it would have showed me where the debug was. But you gotta actually like hunt around for it. Kind of sucks, but I mean, maybe they'll work on that. I don't know. Like I have no clue how that would work. I've never done that side of coding before. I'm pretty sure it would take me like 2 decades to put it together anyway. But so now let's get to the next part. So there's two ways to go about animation, right? First, let's take a look at what this weapon is doing. So this is a weapon. This is the character. The character, WASD, movement. Well, actually, this is arrow key, but I'm gonna make it either WASD or arrow key. And the weapon will try to follow player. Now, what I want is for the weapon to do a couple of things, right? And it's going to do these things based on the attack sequence that it's operating with. So the idea is, um, the idea is that each attack in the attack sequence is going to be an ability. So there's going to be a total of 6 abilities that need to be made. And so regardless of how I choose to make them, there's going to be 6 of them. And these are going to be something that's universal right now to each weapon. So it doesn't matter what weapon you equip, it's going to be able to use the same 6 attack types. Now, obviously, later on, I'm going to probably want to like make things that are specific to like swords and things that are specific to hammers and bows, obviously bows, and so on. But yeah, so basically the general idea right now is I need to make a couple of systems that are going to be tied to this. Um, but before I can do that, this is the consideration that needs to be made. I could either um, make the logic first, or I could attempt to make the function first. By function, what I mean is uh, the abilities themselves, right? And testing out how each one is going to work. But I don't think I want to do that because here's the thing. It doesn't matter what the abilities look like. At the very end, the result is going to be that it's just going to be a something.execute call, right? You've seen me use it in more than enough with the other abilities. So it's just going to be a .execute. So I think the logic is more important here to be able to put together the logic for the attack sequences. Now, with that said, should the attack sequences be locked to the weapon or should they be locked to the player? I think the entity script has more than enough for whatever is going on. And I think the weapon controller, which I'm probably going to change its name to combat controller, but I think that is going to be where we negotiate the state of combat for that particular entity. right? I don't want to bog the entity script down with way too much. It's already got a lot going on, and I might even start taking out parts of the current setup. Because there's just stuff in there that I don't even use. Step is going to be to build out a state machine that's going to track two things: your 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 current attack and the viability of your next attack. By viability, what I mean is just because you did, let's say you have attack A, B, and C of light attacks, right? And you're just mashing whatever the light attack button is. Okay, fine, right? But we might want things to happen in between those attacks. So let's say that you execute the attack. There might be an order to things for each attack. So you execute the attack, and we have to do something before the attack is executed. We have to do something after the attack is executed. And we have to do something when the attack is executed, right? And let's say I was already thinking about something like gravity, right? Like a gravity-based attack. So let's say you have a martial arts style that ties it in with gravity. And so you might have in the game a mechanic that if you, yes, you attacked, but if you press the attack button again during the attack animation at specific times, you might get like additional damage on that attack, right? Well, how about if also if you were a gravity user or something like that, you can increase the amount of time you have to execute that additional input. So we kind of want to be able to say that an attack is in a situation where it will accept additional damage, right? That should be a possibility. So we need that thing. And that's where the Tower of State Machine really shines, because what it can do is then say, okay, you've executed the attack, and whatever damage, if you, if it can then say, okay, you execute the attack, something's going to be listening for that attack, and it has a specific period of time that it wants to listen for that attack, right? It's gonna connect to the damage, and then it's going to say, remember when we set up damage, we passed in also the source of that damage. Where is it? Weapon handler, right? In our damage class, where is it? This is the weapon handler. Yeah, here we go. In our damage class, we also pass in the entity that's the source of that damage. So we can have something that's going to say, okay, for 0.5 of a second, we're going to connect to hitbox area entered, right? And yeah, we're going to connect to the weapon handler's hitbox area entered. So we're going to get the hitbox from the weapon manager, and then we're going to say, okay, for 0.5 of a second, I want to listen to if you're sending out anything here, right? And so when this does the emit, where is it? Right. There we go. Hold on, this can be undone. There we go. So now when this does the send call here, right, it's going to do an emit. When it does the emit on this for the hit a valid target, right, that's what it's going to do. So it's going to hit a valid target here. And it's going to want to listen to if it hit a valid target. And then when you press the button to get the additional damage in that, it will then apply damage to whatever the target was that you hit also. It will apply the additional damage. Right? And actually, let's do this. And since we're here, let's do this too. Var target entity. All right, so, and then when we're here, we can add that here. And basically, we would just go self source equal to source and self target equal to target. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. So all of that is set, and then we just go down here, and I wish we could do that, but we can't. I don't think GEscript supports that. And we can say area. Right? And that's it. So now, so now we'll get the hit here, and we'll send that out, and then whatever entity is supposed to receive that will receive that hit. Speaking of, we need to connect to this at some point, but not now. But yeah, so basically, we need some method of controlling that. All right, so that's going to be the goal. You need to build the logic for handling the state of the attack, the parts of the attack. And the easiest way to do that, I'll be honest, is Taro Dev State Machine. It is such a powerful tool. Like, I can't stop singing it praises. So we're going to have to figure out, right, where is the most relevant place to put this state machine. Part of me is saying the weapon controller. Part of me is saying the weapon handler. There's viability in both, right? Because I think the weapon handler effectively taking care of just about everything with regards to damage dealing. But inputs come from the player. And I would like to limit the amount of updates in the game. Like right now, I think there's like 1 or 2 updates that are being used in the game. By update, what I mean is things that are being called or invocations for frame by frame calls. So where that's happening is here. Right? Basically, I think this is the only place in the game where anything is happening or any call is being called at each frame. Everything else is happening at the start or at the end of the life cycle of the node/tree. All right, this is the best way, I think, of handling code like this, is to minimize how much you're actually calling each frame. And considering that, right, there's still a lot of stuff happening each frame, but this is not, I should not be doing a ton of stuff anyway. This is not really a lot. Okay. So let's get started. Let's get started. Does Yeah. So the first thing that we want is we want properties for each one of the different abilities, right? And we also need to save those abilities at some point. Because when you load back into the game, you're going to load back into the game not with the properties from default, but from the properties as defined by your save, right? So I'm thinking that, for example, let's say you have the moon splitter slash or whatever, and you've studied the moon splitter slash to, let's say, level 10. Okay, great. But all of that information needs to be stored. So this abilities are going to be, or rather, these combat abilities are going to be slightly different. So I think I'm going to actually have these abilities extend combat, and then extend active, and then extend, or sorry, and then we just start going like that. So I'm going to actually make two new classes. One is going to be extending abilities to go into combat to make it very clear this is combat related stuff. And then we're going to go from there. That's what I think. So let's start with that. So to do this, the first thing we're actually going to do is, since this is just a script that we're going to make, create script, and we're going to call this one abilities combat, and it inherits abilities. Ability. Uh, ability. There we go. Ah, there it is. Create. Okay. And then we're going to say so we have combat, and then we're going to probably want to have. Let's not be too specific. So it's going to be combat, and then from there, yeah, I think that's good enough. So then we're just going to make a new folder, and we're going to call the first one go super woozy. Actually, I'm going to use a classic first step regalia. Here we go. Super cliche. Okay, so now the Emperor Gate ability. This is going to be a combat-based ability. When I go into it, we're going to get rid of this real quick. Get rid of this. I think we can get rid of this. And this. And I think we can get, yeah, I think we can get rid of that, but let's keep it for now. So then we're going to go node, and this node is going to be the emperor. Emperor's gate. Actually, I want to add something here. How come it won't let me go back? Oh, I am back. um, export. Var. Okay, good. Oops. Let's do stuff here first. Emperor's Gate, we're going to attach a script, and that script is going to inherit abilities, combat. It's not even here. Well, I'll be. We're going to call it Emperor's Gate. I don't know. Can this have that? Would you look at that? It can. So I'm going to rename this. Rename. That's a lot of flexibility on the name. Naming. Okay. And then we're going to just save this. Emperor's Gate scene. Ability. Save. Okay. That's good. It's good and ready. So now supposed to inherit. Oh, we forgot. Class. Name. Combat ability. And okay. Next we need to go with we don't need to actually do that for this. Right? We just need to make sure that we do the call lower. And internal execute. Those are the two things that are required. Okay. All right. And let's put pass here for now. All right. So the idea is that this needs a place to call home. And this is just going to be like the basic attack. It's the opener attack for whenever you're using a light attack. Yeah, we should probably name it something like light attack. That would be. But these names are always exuberant. That's the thing. They're always like, I don't know, the Heavenly Grand Sequence, Buddha, 7 trigrams, something another. Let's see. So I think I want to flip a coin on where it's going to call it. You know what? Let's not even do that much. Let's just take a look and see which one has the most stuff in it and not go with that one. So we can take a look at the weapon handler. It's got quite a few things going on here. It wants to do stuff when it enters. It's ready. And then when we update the data, and it confirms the hit, and then it exits. We look at the weapon controller. It's actually very tiny by comparison. Right? Very, very compact. I'm happy with it. We go to entity level. Got a ton of stuff happening here. Right? Most of this stuff isn't even being used. We have like set stat. Right? Set stat basically I think we can probably get rid of this. I'll be honest. Let's do that. We never use it. Let's not use it. And we want to add the stats. We don't need it. Because this Godot is a little bit different. I mean, I think it's probably better practice to use a function to change your properties from separate scripts, but Godot does not have any kind of. I mean, they have get sets, but they don't have anything else that really stops that. So I'm assuming that it's made for you to communicate that way. Everything is effectively public. Okay, so this is the state machine inside of this thing right now. So it currently has two state machines. It has one for the entity's state while it's alive. And if the entity is alive, then it has these states. Right? If it's idle, if it's moving, if it's attacking, if it's airborne. So what we're concerned about, or what we're interested in, is the attacking state. Right? So it's already here. So I think we should probably just extend this. So, yeah. I think what's going to happen here. Oh, hold on a second. Let's actually go OBS for 1 sec. Let's check out something real quick. All right. Okay, good enough. So, we have attacking. Remember I was saying basically that the way that this machine works, the state machine works. So now let's say like here I might want to say, man, this is getting expansive. Like I'm already seeing how this is going to explode into a bunch of different things. So let's try to keep it simple. What we want is we want animation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a dictionary. And that dictionary is going to have a couple of things happening in it. All right. It is going to have I don't want to make it a dictionary though. I think a dictionary is what needs to be done. Yeah. So think about this. It needs the ability to be saved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat it like it's an item. So when we get these abilities, we kind of probably want to be able to save and load, similar to what we did with the resource data. Right, between scenes. But for now, we're just going to operate. So the good thing is I don't need to spend the time to remake that because it's already there. I know it's possible and I know I can do it. So I'm not even going to try to worry about that. We're just going to keep working with the templates, and then down the road I'll add that. Right now though, what I want is I want to set up the framework that's going to basically it's just going to be plug and play for that. And the easiest way to do that is just copy what we did with the current equipment. So we're just going to go var current abilities. All right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to go var current abilities, and we're going to go dictionary. We go equal, like that. So this is going to hold all of the different kinds of abilities, including these up here. Which means now we need a method that we're going to call on ready that is effectively just going to load all of these into the character, which is something that I wanted to avoid. I did not want to call ready here. Right? I've been dancing around it. But these are things that kind of should be there on ready. Right? But what we can do, we already have the prototype for this here, is make a get method and then populate the dictionary on ready from here rather than calling on ready itself or calling ready itself. So yeah, okay. I think we have a good plan. I have a good plan of action. Okay, so let's go here. So you say func get initial abilities. And we're going to return a dictionary. Right? And then we're going to say, oops. We're going to say, that this stuff, we're just going to take this. I'm going to put it here. Right? And then we're going to say that actually this isn't movement. Actually, this is current abilities. And we're going to name it movement. And we're going to say is going to be equal to that, whatever we get there. And we're going to keep doing this. This is kind of still house cleaning, but hey, it is what it is. So the next one is rotation. And the last one is weapon movement. Okay, and then we return current abilities. So now we go here, we can say current abilities. We can go add on ready. And instead of doing that, we can say that's going to be equal to get initial abilities. Right? Okay, good. So now this is going to just get this, it's going to load that, and then it's going to do this. So now when we go down to save this, when we go down to the player, dungeon player, it's going to say, hey, these things don't exist anymore. And I'm going to say, you're right, because they're all now in current. And nope, you don't know anything about it, so never mind. But we're going to type it in. Current abilities. What was that one? I think that was rotation, right? Turning, yeah. Okay, maybe we need to reload the project. Yep, there we go. Now, I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, I keep bucking the grain by going with enums. And as much as I love enums, Godot is just not friendly to enums. Like, it's just not friendly. So, in cases like this, where it's just one layer down, I've decided to expand my like if it's multiple layers down, unless I'm just dealing with it as the first layer, I'm not going to use. I'll spend the time and I'll make the enums for it. But the problem is that it's not so much the time to make the enums, it's the time to turn those enums back into, because it keeps turning them into strings. So then I have to convert them back into enums, and it's just painful. If I have to do that all over the place, that's just too much. I would love to spend the time to do that, but it's like, no, I want to get projects done, not spend time doing conversions. Okay. I think that's it. I think problem is I don't even know if that's correct. So let's go up and take a look. Weapon underscore movement. What did I put here? Weapon underscore movement rotation. Okay. So now this should work. Let's test this out. I'm not sure. Am I sharing the whole screen still? Or no, I'm not. Okay. There we go. So let's see what happens when I do this. You're still running around. Okay. We still have everything that we had before. Okay. So now we have basically the precursor system set up. So later on when we need to save this, it'll just be a simple call on the other side, on the data manager side, to just say, hey, give me the list, your dictionary for current abilities, and I'll add it. It's going to add it to um, the file to be saved also, right? And that's what I mean. Like, it's just so fast and easy to do that. Um, And I think it's going to be one-to-one because since I'm storing it as this, it's just a matter of pulling it back out and then it'll be this anyway. So it's just save this, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay. Actually, it's not one to one. It's not one to one. I still have to execute save and then execute load. So it's like 2 steps. If it was one to one, that would be good, but it's not because it'll give me that reference issue that I had before if I just send it like this. Because this is some type of reference code. It's not actually the data that's inside of it. Dot, dot, dot. But this now allows me to make changes to the abilities and keep them separated, right? It's not like a factory reset every single time you start the game. The downside, though, is that I need to, whenever, so like with abilities, I'm not sure how that's going to be played out, right? In the game, I'm thinking that you'll have books, and one book will probably be like the book of the school that you go to, and that book will have like, let's say like you have the martial book and you have the esoteric book, right, from the same school. So the martial book from that school, all of the attacks, regardless of whatever weapon you're using, will look kind of the same, right? And they'll have specific learning curves and so on. And each school has like different variations. So all of these combat skills that I'm about to put in should really be like tied to a specific school, right? Each one of the variations of them. So you'll see like in the lore drops on them things with details about like this is like the preliminary art for the introduction to the Red Phoenix uh cult of martial arts or something like that, right? And stuff like that is what you see, and that might have like a fire attribute tied to it, tied to the weapon, and its attacks are based on that. And then if you have the esoteric book, then the finishers, because the idea is that as you attack, you build tension, which is then as you gain like little orbs, right? As you go up, and as you continue to build tension, you can expend tension with finishers. And each finisher is different. So uh, yeah, that's basically the idea. And while the combos are fine or the attacks are fine, and you can do all of that stuff, the when you combine that with finishers, then the weapons will do like um, more interesting kinds of attacks and things. Um, so that's the idea. So this is pretty good, I think. I like this. I'll be honest, I like it. All right. Hmm. So what's going to happen is when we save, it's just going to be that the save file that we save this as is going to store. Well, in the case of movement, right, we're going to actually store the reference for movement. In the case of rotation, we're going to store the reference for rotation. So this later on will actually not be here like this. It's going to be tied to the or actually this might be here, but then it's going to get overwritten by the data from update from the data manager. That's the idea. So we're going to put like a check, right? I'll put like a check here on if the current abilities has anything in it. If it has something in it, right? Like if it has movement, then we're not going to replace that with this. If it has rotation, we're not going to replace that, and so on and so forth. So that's something that I'm thinking needs to be there. In Unity, this would have been so simple to do, right? We could just put a freaking operator here, a question operator, and we could just go or null coalesce operator, and we'll say like the question, hey, Question, question. Is this null? If it's null, then we do this. Otherwise, we leave it the same. But no, this doesn't have that. You got to use an if statement for each one of these, and it's kind of annoying, but whatever. I miss null coalesce. Boy. Okay, let's keep moving. So this is functioning. So now the next thing is we need a method that will add something to this, right? And I think the way that we want to do this is now back to enums. So let's go to enums. And yeah, we're going to say enum weapon attack type. And we're going to say, we can just say attack type. Okay. We're going to say light first, light second, light third. Then we can say heavy first, heavy second, heavy third. Okay, and once that's done, then we can say, all right, light first, light second, light third. This is basically all of the attacks that are going to be in the game. All right, because after this, then we're getting into finishers and so on. So we can make a second one for now, which is enum finisher slot. I think finishers are going to be based on slots because you might want to have, let's say, I don't know what the buttons are going to be exactly. I'm thinking it's actually going to be the 1, 2, and 3 button. But you can say that we have slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3. Right? These are the finisher slots. So I'll show you what I was thinking, why I'm making this the way that I'm making it now. Save, more than likely. This thing is not going to pick up on it, but we'll hope for the best. So let's push this down some more. Right, and now let's say func.add abilities. And we're going to say, or rather, add combat abilities. And it's going to be yeah, it's going to be I think I'm missing something. I think I'm missing something. You know what? Yeah. There's many ways to get what I'm thinking done. I'm trying to put together the way that's going to cause the least amount of problems down the road. One way is to make an enum to handle this. Another way is to make a new class to handle this. And the new class would just be a name, effectively, which is it's basically functioning as what an enum would do. Right? I think we're going to go with the class option. I think I prefer the class option. I prefer the class option. Let's do that. Okay. So let's get rid of this. You don't need all of this stuff in here. But what we do need is we need a new script. Script. And this is going to inherit combat ability. Okay. And this is going to be active. Basic attacks. And we're going to have another one. And this is going to be finishers. Okay, and let's leave it at that for now. So then we go here and we go class name, basic attack, and go to finishers, class name, finishers. Okay, these are all the abilities that are finishers and all the abilities that are basic attacks. They're all under combat ability. So let's go ahead and save. Let's go back to entity and let's add in the ability basic attack. Okay, then we have we want to do a check on that, right? Because all basic attacks need to have some information on them. Let's go back to basic attack and let's take a look and see var attack var attack slot going to be equal to enum game. I think it's just enums dot attack ability type, maybe. Yeah, dot. Okay, let's look at enums. Attack type. Okay. Oh, come on. There we go. Did I do that wrong? What is it again? EA game enums. Right here. Attack type. Enums dot. Okay, there we go. And Emperor's Gate is going to extend to the combat basic attack. All right, that's it. Okay, so now we can just do, we can go here and we can say entity. Okay, so this will accept a basic attack. And now we can say, so what is this exactly? If we've come this far, then we actually don't care about the data in this dictionary, because the data here comes from whatever is equipped. So once something is equipped, it's going to actually populate this data here, right? All we're really doing here is just referencing it. Instead of going into our equipment and looking, we're just going here. Now the question is, do we want this to be the equipment? I don't think so. Right? I think we want a separate node later on. Like we're going to take all of this stuff that's related to like equipment and stuff. We're going to take all of that and put it in a separate node. It's not going to be here when this is done. But for now, I'm thinking the data, the actual data for the abilities is going to be in the equipment, right? All this is actually doing is it's giving a quicker reference point instead of having to search through that dictionary and search through the values to find the specific abilities. Instead, what it's going to do, oh, I hate this so much. I just realized something. It's my bad habit. In this case, it's a bad habit. It's normally a good habit. I went back into enums. So let's go back here real quick. Basic attack. Okay, this is not going to be an enum. This is going to be a string. Much as it gives me angst to use string, this is going to be a string. There has to be like some type of way to limit this. Like spell check it, limit it, blah, 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 whatever. And this is going to be export bar. Right? Actually, no. This is going to be set by the school that you go to. What slot this goes into. But maybe this isn't such a big deal. The problem was that the numbers have to be unique. And since enums are just basically 0 to whatever, I can't guarantee that the numbers are going to be unique. Like I could put like the enums to start from like 20 million or something, but yeah, at that point that defeats the purpose of using an enum. I kind of want that, you know, that low memory usage that you don't really afford with strings. Um, okay, so all right, so next we've confirmed that this is going to be a string. So let's go back to entity. Sorry if I sound a little depressed about that, but I am. We're going to basically do a current abilities. It's going to be the ability dot, oops. Okay, there. So from there, we're just going to add that as the current ability. All right. And that's what it comes down to. So now we're like in an inventory or whatever, and that's what it is. And this is going to just overwrite. So effectively, like when you equip the book, it's going to go like 4, and then it's going to look through all of the abilities that are on that book, and it's going to say, well, for each one of these abilities, we're going to replace this, right? Now this has nothing on it quite yet. There's no real math here. And I don't think I'm going to be working on the math at all. The idea was to get to this part. Right. So before we get to that part, though, I need to do a couple of things. One, I need to actually call this. When I call it, I need to give it this basic attack. And I also need to set up that left click will execute the attack. All right. So let's go here and then make this state. Func. What's this? Tag. Okay, good. So let's do it after here. Func. Attack. State. And we're just going to be looking at go to enums. Need to get my brain around when and when not to use enums in this project. That's a thing. Dungeon. Where is it? Game enums. Game B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh. I'm at that point where I think I need to take a break because my eyes are not allowing me to see things. Enums. Enum dot attack date. Actually, I think we can name this attack state. Okay. So we actually need to add neutral. This also. So we're in neutral, light attack, light second, light third. So the idea is if you do This is interesting. I never thought about what about other combos besides combinations between light and heavy, right? Like, what if you do light, 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 or light, light, heavy, or like five lights? I've always thought about it as just three and three because there's so many combinations. You can go heavy, light, light, heavy, light, heavy, light, heavy, light, light, heavy, heavy, light, light, heavy, and so on and so forth, right? And it's always just been three hits in my head. And to me, three hits is fine. Like when I play games and they have way more than three hits, it's like, okay, at this point just give me a cutscene. This is how I feel about it. So I think three hits is fine, right? You give the opponent, the enemies, time for you not to for them to actually be a threat. Um, I'm gonna leave it at three hits. I think it just want to be combinations of the three hits. I'm not gonna worry about complex combos. Uh so yes. So neutral is basically your attack state is outside of any of these states. That's what neutral is, right? And then if you're in neutral, you can go to either light or heavy, and that'll basically be the start of the combo. And anytime that that's up, you go back to neutral. That's the idea. Let's save. Let's work on this state machine, which should be pretty simple. Yeah. I know that you're supposed to, I think, what time is it? Yeah, I think I'm going to take a break. Um, all right, I'm going to call it here for the day because I've been working on this a little bit too much. Okay.